93, 93, 93. This is the one I sure knew from ISureKnew.com. We back in here for another live stream, right? We'll try to do 4 today so that we finally hit that 1,000 video mark. So after this, we got 2 more. 2 more videos. We hit 1,000 mark. But let's get into it. This live stream is entitled The Laws of the Underworld / Qliphoth. Now the reason I'm speaking about this because, we are in the 7th day, the day of chaos, the day of Neptune, the day of the underworld. So it'd be fitting to speak about the underworld because this is just the current of the day. So this is just me being in tune with the planets. So if Neptune is the dominant force of the day, let's speak about Neptunian energies, right? So that's essentially, that's why we're speaking about the darkness in this particular energy. What's up, the Terapaths? Greetings, greetings. Salute to you, salute to you. Now, we're gonna get pretty deep in this one. Well, when don't we get deep, right? So that's what I say every fucking video, right? But this one's a little different. Essentially, with this, I just want to reflect on the real time. Let's really step out of the underworld in sense of spiritual. Let's talk about it on a physical level. What I mean by that is, if you're doing, let's just say, crime, you have to deal with, you can say, the police. Also rivals. But let me tell you this. This is how I know that this is real. Right? The so-called spiritual work bleeding into the physical world. This is how I know these attributes are real. Every time I have encountered the police or the cops, every single time, whether it's in Los Angeles, whether it's in Las Vegas, every time I have encountered the so-called enemy, right? It seems as if they knew who I was. I'm not talking about they know about my YouTube channel. I'm not speaking about that. But it's like they have never disrespected me. They've never talked crazy to me. And even if they kind of did, they apologized afterwards. Let me give you an example. It was one time where I'm just walking down the street and a robbery had been committed. So they're on the hunt. They're hot. They're looking for what's going on, right? So they see me. So basically, I see the police on the street. So I try to walk in the parking lot. I'm trying to avoid them. I'm like, I don't want to deal with them at all. So I guess they took it as, okay, he's trying to, navigate around us. We need to see what's going on. So as I walk past them, I'm just going on about my business. It's just funny as fuck. I'm sorry. This is funny. Because it's like they got in their car, right? Or their little truck. And then they speed, trying to catch up to me. It's just funny, hold on. This is funny. Because they really thought they had something. They didn't know who they was fucking with. Right? They just, this is just a normal person. So they get in their truck, they speed, catch up to me. So they like, yo, they put me in handcuffs. I've only been in handcuffs one time in my life. This is the one time I've ever been in handcuffs. So they rushed to me. They're like, yo, turn around. Take your wallet out. Put your hands behind your back. I'm handcuffed now, right? And I'm like, I'm just laughing. I'm not taking it seriously at all. So I don't have this energy of, just talking shit to the cops and I'm like, y'all doing me wrong. I'm just looking around. I'm like, damn. I'm like, this is how handcuffs feel. This is my reaction. I'm like, oh, this is how handcuffs feel. I'm like, oh, this is my first time in handcuffs. Of course they don't believe me. I'm like, oh, he's just running his goddamn mouth. But I'm just talking to them civilized. I'm like, you having a good day? I'm just talking to them as if there are no handcuffs on me. I'm normalizing this situation as possible. Like, see, they don't understand because we think people in the underworld, they're just extra ruthless. They're trying to shoot. They're trying to kill. They're just all overboard. But with me, I'm being just like I'm cooling. It's not necessarily that I didn't do anything. I just understand when you're dealing with them, they're always trying to play Jedi mind tricks on you, but they don't really. They think we're foolish. They think we're a bunch of fucking monkeys. We just have bad intent, right? So they're not even trying to deal with you like a civilized human being unless you bring it out of them, unless you look past the badge. So that's what I was on. I'm looking past the badge. I'm just having a regular conversation. You having a good day? How's life? I'm just talking to them as if there are no handcuffs, like you would talk to a civilized person, right? So once they run all the information, they realize, there's no record. I have no association with whatever the fuck is going on. I just so happen to be walking down the street. So then the cop takes the handcuffs off of me. Then he apologized and thanks me. So not only does he apologize, he thanks me. Because he didn't believe, he couldn't fathom that I'm not cussing his ass out because that's what he's used to dealing with. He's used to dealing with savages. But remember, that's the lowest form of the underworld. Once you begin to navigate these chambers and you increase your rank, who else is talking about spiritual rank? I've been talking about that too, right? That's how I know this shit is real. This is now I know this ain't just some shit that I'm just speaking about. This is how this shit manifests in real time. So because I was increasing in rank, not only does the handcuffs comes off, he's thinking like, yo, he was like, thank you for not cussing me out. Thank you for not talking to me like a savage, like I'm not a human being. He actually thanked me for talking to him like a civilized human being. And he apologized like, damn, I didn't even want to handcuff you. We just had to do our due diligence. It's easy as that. It's put on, they come right off. I'm like, all I did was be a civilized person. Even though I guess I'm not civilized because I'm navigating the underworld. But what I'm saying is every time I have encountered these people who were supposed to be the enemy, who was supposed to, just be the most savage of us all, I'll give you another example. I'm driving without a license. I get pulled over. Right? They say, okay, the tail light isn't working, So technically, I'm breaking the fucking law, and they're supposed to take me in. I don't have a license. Right? I'm driving though. But I was doing it in a civilized fashion. Pretty much, I was doing it because I had to. I wasn't doing it because I'm just trying to evade the cops. But we'll get to that later. But eventually, basically, I said, I don't have a license. Here's my ID. That's all I said. I'm like, I don't have a license. So I didn't lie to him. I didn't try to run any game. I don't have a license. See, I'm driving this car. I don't have a license. Here's my ID though. And I had an out-of-state ID. So I was in Las Vegas. I gave them a California ID. So they'd run all my numbers. The homie had to get his supervisor. He calls his supervisor. They have a conversation. Then he just hands me back my ID. He was like, have a good day. He was like, since you were straight up with me, I'm going to be straight up with you. That's what he told me, which is technically I'm breaking the fucking law. I'm not supposed to be behind the wheel at all. I'm breaking the law. I'm in the wrong. Fuck the excuse, right? Ignorance of the law is no excuse, right? Fuck the excuse. I should not be behind this wheel. Hands me my ID. Have a good day. Since you was straight up with me, you didn't try to run no game on me. Here you go. That's what happened. He handed me my ID. I got back in the car and he legally drove the fuck off. He like, yo, that wasn't supposed to happen. I didn't get a ticket. I didn't get a warning. He just talked to me like a human being. Like, all right, well, since you ain't trying to run game on me, because they're so used to people lying. They're so used to dealing with uncivilized people. When they actually deal with a civilized human being, even though I don't even consider myself a human being, since they deal with a civilized person, just let me go on about my goddamn business, which technically they were not supposed to do. Because technically I'm in the wrong. They had every reason if they wanted to tow the car, if they wanted to give me a ticket, if they wanted to take me to jail, they would have been within their rights. But instead of going through all that, they just hand me my ID. Have a good day. Let me go on about my business, no problem. Another, I spoke about this on the channel before. I was doing a full moon ritual, right? So I set a fire. I'm in this big ass field. I set a fire. I guess somebody calls the cops, like, what the fuck is this nigga doing? And I don't even use that word, but I know that they use it, like, what the fuck is this person doing? Somebody calls the cops. They run up on me. Not run up technically, but I'm in this big ass field, and I see them from a distance, they're walking up. It's a man and a woman. So like, yo, the fuck are you doing? Well, I'm just putting emphasis on it. They're like, yo, what's going on there? And I just told the truth. I'm doing a full moon ritual. I didn't try to, I don't know, I'm not supposed, nope. I told him exactly what I was doing. I'm like, yo, I'm doing a full moon ritual. The man was like, what the fuck? That's what his reaction. But then the woman, she was like, yo, it is a full moon, ain't it? She basically, it's like she knew. She was like, yo, I've heard about that. Like, this is about to be my time. Like, this is a good time for me. Like, she started to have a conversation with me. Like, she knew what the fuck was going on. Then the man is looking at her like, what the fuck is going on? You're like, what? So now I'm talking to the cop. We're talking about the fucking full moon ritual. And then he's like, what the fuck is going on here? Then she was like, you know what? He was like, yo, just put the fire out, man. Go on about your business. We don't want people to think you're doing some type of witchcraft or something. All right. Then the woman, she thanked me. She was like, like, I appreciate that. I appreciate you having a conversation with me. Another time, they're thanking me. And I'm technically in the wrong. I'm not supposed to be setting this goddamn fire. Clearly, somebody thought I was doing something I wasn't supposed to do. That's why they called the cops. But then they just let me go on about my business. I'm like, yeah, we understand, we respect it. Go on and put the fire out, man. We don't want people thinking that there's some crazy shit going on. No problem. Then they went on about their fucking business. So it was like, we hear so much, fucked up and foul shit about what cops do and how they are, and they just treat us like fucking animals. But every time they have encountered me, they've been the most respectful. They're talking to me like a human being, and even if I was in the wrong, they let me go about my business. Another incident, I had gotten into a car accident. It wasn't even that I was in a car accident, because it was just me. Meaning the only car that was damaged was my own. It didn't have nothing to do with it. Like, I was probably speeding, spent out on the freeway. This is, I guess, I don't, yeah, so I'll tell the story. I don't know if I told this story before. Speeding on the freeway, spin out, lose control of the car. But nobody gets damaged. So no one was harmed. They couldn't believe the shit though. Like, the tow truck had to come. And he was flabbergasted. He was like, yo, people normally don't make it out of this situation alive. So he really didn't even know how to, like, yo, you're not even supposed to be alive right now. These type of situations mostly end in death, somebody dying or somebody seriously hurt. And you just get up and you just walk off, no injuries. The tow truck driver was so impressed, or just so he didn't believe it. He was like, yo, I'm gonna charge you for this, but I'm not gonna put the total. Like, you can, whatever total you want it to be, I'm gonna allow you to write the total. So basically, so I can get however much I need to get from the insurance company. So he didn't even put the total on the receipt. He was like, you can put whatever total you want. So I'm like, yo, now he's going out of bounds. He is supposed to put the total. But he left it in my hands. Because they're like, yo, he didn't even, like, yo, it's like I'm a dead man walking at this point. He didn't even understand. He couldn't comprehend, like, yo, like, you're not hurt at all. Then the cop, he was like, yo, he like, whatever you need, I'm gonna call the tow truck. They shut down the whole fucking freeway. You know, they helped my car, you know, get off the freeway. They did all these dynamics. They never even asked me for an ID. They didn't ask me for insurance. They didn't check anything. They're like, yo, whatever you need, we got you. We're gonna call the tow truck. We're gonna let you go about your business. Which is not protocol. They're supposed to check your registration, your license. They're supposed to check all. They didn't check a goddamn thing. They just called the tow truck, let me go about my business. So I'm just giving these various examples. One time I even pulled a knife on a person, was ready to stab some shit up. Again, I'm not promoting it. But you know, people were accusing me of doing things I didn't do. So I'm like, all right, like I gotta go into beast mode. So I'm pulling knives on motherfuckers. Police is called. Then I don't get arrested. They talk to me like a civilized human being, and I end up walking away. No handcuffs, no charges. They let me go on about my business. Because basically what happened was, you know, I end up pulling a knife. I leave the home. But then I left some of my belongings at the home. So basically I left before the police arrived. So I'm like, damn, wait, I left some of my belongings. So I had to go back to the house. So I come back to the house that I just almost got violent in. But they're there now. The police are there now. So then they see me walking out. They're like, yo. They're like, yo. They couldn't comprehend that I'm coming back. So I'm like, I ain't about to have these motherfuckers looking for me. I'm about to talk to these human beings in a civilized fashion and tell them exactly what occurred. So now I'm just standing outside the house, explaining to them what occurred. I'm being accused of things I didn't do, which was honest. I'm not lying, because again, I've never lied to the cops. I'm like, yo, I'm just gonna tell you the truth. I'm not saying that I was right in this situation. Yeah, you shouldn't be putting your hands on nobody. You shouldn't be pulling knives. You shouldn't be harming anybody. Nobody was harmed though. But what happened was, as I'm explaining what's going on, there was a dog in the house. And the dog absolutely loves me, right? So the dog runs out of the house, and just shows me love. So I bend down, I'm petting the dog. I'm like, so they're looking at this like, what the fuck is going on? I'm like, clearly this dude is not a threat, because you have this dog. You got this little bitty, itty bitty dog who just loves me. You know, wants to lick my face and all. You know how dogs are. So all they did was they're looking like, clearly this man is not a threat. Clearly ain't no bullshit going on, because you know the dog is Anubis. All right, so I'm taking note. I'm like, oh, there's Anubis. Anubis gave me a pass. That's how I'm like, damn, Anubis just gave me a pass. To the point the cops are like, yeah, just get out of here, man. like, well, just get out of here, man. They let me go on about my fucking business. Technically, I was supposed to be arrested. Technically, I did pull a knife on somebody, which you're not supposed to do, right? Some motherfuckers calling the cops on me. So I got the cops called on me because I'm being uncivilized. Because I feel like they're being uncivilized. And again, I shouldn't have did it. So I told the cops, I'm like, yeah, I shouldn't have did that. Yeah, I kind of got out of my body at that time. They just let me go, all right. It is what it is, get up out of here, man. And they returned my belongings. I'm like, I came back because I want to get my belongings. They went in the house, they got my belongings, gave it to me, and let me go on about my goddamn business in a civilized fashion. And just let me go on about my business. No problems. So I'm just giving you these examples of real-time experience. Every time I have encountered these cops, it has been civilized, even if I'm in the wrong, even if like they're doing things they're not supposed to do. They're going above and beyond. They're just giving me a pass. And they don't have to. But they did. And the reason I feel these things are occurring is because I'm like, oh, is it because I'm a nice, civilized person? Not necessarily. You know, I probably look as dangerous as the next person. But they're doing it because, as I told y'all before, the same deity that rules over cops, rules over criminals, it's the same deity. So I'm like, oh, that's how I know this shit is real. There is no difference. There is no separation. The same deity that controls cops, controls criminals. They're not separate entities. They need each other. So because I gave acknowledgement to this deity, I got the same respect back. Because again, I'm not looking at them as savages. I'm not giving them that energy that they're used to receiving. Arguing back and forth and, you know, treating them with no respect. I'm not doing it. I'm like, yo, we are the same. We're ruled by the same energy. So we're actually closer than most people realize. People think the cops are against criminals, but we know they work together. This is how I know this is true. They do work together. As we know, criminals pay off cops to keep their criminal organization going. The cops allow it. If the cops are not allowing it, ain't shit happening. And we know that. If the cops want to shut some shit down, they will shut the shit down. So if things are not being shut down, it's because they are allowing it to continue on because they're getting a percentage. So they let it happen. I also know this, like when I was walking up the whole stroll, when I was in California, I was on the whole stroll. I'm looking at holes, amazed and shit. I'm like, oh shit. This was the first time I'm seeing this shit. I'm like, oh shit, they really out here. It was crazy how this shit even happened. Cause like I didn't know where the whole strolls was, but somehow it's crazy how this shit happened. I just so happened to be like in the train station. And somebody asked me for, I think they had like quarters. They had like I guess $5 worth of quarters or something. So they were asking me, do you have a $5 bill? Because I got a bunch of these quarters that I need to exchange. And I'm like, yeah, here you go. Then somehow, because I had this thought on my mind, I'm like, where are the holes at? Because I didn't know at the time. I didn't know. Again, I didn't have access to the information. I wasn't from California. So then I asked him, I'm like, yo, you know where the holes at? He like, actually, I do. Actually, I know where every stroll is. And he wrote down every stroll. It was like 5 or 6 of them. He knew where each one of them was. I'm like, what are the fucking odds? So that's how I even knew where to go. So then I had to show and prove. I'm like, did he just write anything down, or is it really there? So I go to one of these intersections, and it took like a whole hour. So I go there. I'm with the homie. So we're there. We're looking around. We don't see anything. Soon as like 12 o'clock hit, soon as 1 o'clock hit, they just come out of nowhere. And I'm just seeing all these women and all type of shit. I'm like, oh shit, he's right. There they are. I'm like, how are they able to do this shit? And the cops, and I'm like, I'm seeing cops too. Like, the cops is letting this shit happen. But then, they don't want you to know that they are letting it happen. So then they approach us. So me and the homie get approached by the cops. We're basically just sitting at the bus stop. We're pretending. Like, we're just students. We're just waiting on the bus. We're going to school. That's the excuse we had. Then he was like, all right, cool, fuck it. No, actually, I'm missing a great point here. What happened was it was a new prostitute on the scene, but she was a white woman. See, it was mostly black women, right? They just letting the shit happen. But then you see a white woman, and they're like, oh shit. Cops pull up on her, because it's like she wasn't supposed to be there. Whether I guess it's just them protecting their own or whatever, so they're asking us about her. And we don't know what the fuck that is. But basically, they didn't want her on the stroll for whatever reason again. Whether they're just protecting their own or they just don't want her around. So that was really the only reason why they was around, because I guess they saw a new face and like, oh, who the fuck is this? And then we just so happened to be there, so we're looking at all this occur. So I'm like, oh, the cops are letting this shit happen, because why they questioning us? I'm seeing hoes walk up and down the street. I'm like, all right, so y'all don't see that shit? Of course they see it. Of course they know what's going on. But I guarantee they're getting paid off. And they are allowing it to happen because they're not stopping shit. The only time that they came to interfere with anything is when they saw somebody new or somebody that they didn't want there. While everybody else is, all the other women are just making it happen. So I'm just giving you, I know this weird shit. Just giving you examples of every time I encounter the so-called cops, the so-called law. That's why I called it the underground law. Every time I encountered these beings, they giving me the utmost respect. They're like, oh, okay, cool. Oh, yo, you on your way to school? All right, no problem. And we just got to enjoy the show. We ain't going to no fucking school. We're just enjoying the goddamn show. Because we're amazed that we're actually here. Because again, I didn't even know where to go. Somehow I magically find where to go because I didn't know who to go to, who to ask. But somehow I run into this random individual who has all the information. And then when we go there and we see what's going on, then we are allowed to stay there. Ain't nobody try to push us off the block or anything. So we got front row seats to what's going on. Oh shit, this is just how they get down. So again, it's just countless stories of this. I'm just giving you real-time events of. There's been situations where they could have easily took advantage and did some bullshit, but they chose not to. Because it was something within me that like, oh, all right, we're not going to do that to him. It is what it is. Is it because I said something, I used some magical spell? Not necessarily. But the spiritual rank cannot be ignored. This is a point I'm making. I've been speaking about spiritual rank forever, for years now. Your spiritual rank matters. Meaning, if you decide to be in the streets, do anything illegal, do anything underworld, be a witch, be a warlock, be a prostitute, be whatever, any underworld activity, you must adhere to your rank. So because I was building up my rank, putting in the work, not just in the books, not just in the research, but also in the streets. You see, I had to figure out all this. I didn't know all this. I've navigated the streets of LA all over the place. I've been in all type of hoods that I wasn't supposed to be in. I've been in the most dangerous places, places that people were scared to even go to. I've walked in all type of hoods in South Central LA, being encountered by gang members and all that, because I used to live out there. I was out there when the gangs were still on the street, so you're not going to really see too much of that now in 2020. But if you go back 10 years ago, they were still standing on the block. They're still in front of the Metro PCS. Like, people were afraid to pay their own phone bills because it was fucking gangs. Imagine rolling up to a Metro PCS and you see 10 gang members outside the Metro PCS. Imagine the average person ain't about to go in there like, you know what, I'm just about to find somewhere else to pay my bill. But what am I doing? I'm like, all right, I'm about to pay my fucking bill. Like, I'm about to go up in this bitch. But then, yeah, they're yelling their sets at me, right? They're throwing up their signs at me. And what do? I just walk in there and pay the goddamn bill and walk out. The people ask, it was another time I got encountered by a gangbanger. I'm just walking down the street. Then he was like, yo, where you from? What was my response? Like, I'm from right here. What the fuck you from? Like, I'm from right here. His mind got spent. Like, I'm from right here. Then he was like, well, what do you mean? Like, are you from North California or are you from something? I'm like, no, I'm from right here. Then he was like, he didn't even know how to respond. I just walked off. So like, he was holding down the block and like, yo, where you from? I'm from right here, goddammit. I live here. Been a couple times, like, yo, where you from? Right here. The same place you from. Oh, okay. Just let me go about my goddamn business. They didn't ask no extra questions. I'm like, oh, okay. Then there was another time I got encountered by a gangbanger. You know, I'm in an area I'm technically not supposed to be in because they're at war. You know, it be all type of wars that the mainstream doesn't know about, the average person don't knows about, but the gangs know. So basically, it's like kill on sight in these places when they're at war. So at this game, member like said a code to me. He had said something in code. I'm like, I don't even. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? He said something. It was like it wasn't even English. But I guess it's a code. They communicate in code. So he said something. I'm like what? I'm like that can't be English. So he was like, yo, you're not even from here, are you? Like so he basically he caught me like, oh, you ain't even from around here, huh? Like you don't even know what's going on, huh? I'm like, hell no. I'm like, I don't know what you talking about. Then he like, all right, fuck it, go on ahead. Didn't give me no hassle. Didn't try to do anything, take anything. Like, all right, go ahead, man. He like, you clearly don't know what the fuck is going on. It was another time. So yeah, see, this is when I guess I don't recommend doing this, but it was another time. I'm just waiting on the train. I'm just sitting on the steps, all right? Because in the train stations you have to go underground, so you have to walk down. So I'm just sitting on the steps, playing with my phone. Then like somebody throws a fucking water bottle, a open water bottle. It didn't hit me, but it landed like right by my leg, right? So I'm like, somebody just threw a fucking water bottle. I guess I looked like a drug dealer. I guess, what I mean? I had the little hat. I guess I had the appearance, of a rival gang member or whatever. So clearly somebody didn't take that lightly. Somebody was like, yo, throw that fucking water bottle at him, trying to be disrespectful. Because they are expecting me to, get the fuck on, right? So they're expecting me to, hold on, turn that on. Hold on. So they are expecting me, to just go down the stairs and hop on the damn train. And what do? I do the exact opposite. You know what I mean? I just got on demon time. I'm like, all right, so what I do, I walk up the stairs, trying to find out who just threw this. And I put my hand in my pants, right? This is intimidation. I put my hand in my pants like I had a weapon, right? And I'm looking around. I'm like, all right, I'm like, who did this shit? So I'm walking around. I'm looking around, right? And I see like a group of dudes like kind of off, but they wouldn't connect eyes with me. As soon as I looked over there, they immediately moved their head. They would not lock eyes with me because I'm like, I feel like I look like I'm about to destroy some shit. So like I just walk off. I just walk the fuck off. I'm like, oh, okay. That's all I did. I don't recommend you do that. I don't recommend it. But again, obviously somebody thought I was somebody else or whatever. Again, who knows why this shit happened. But then again, motherfucker, I'm like, they had something to do with it because they wouldn't lock eyes with me. I'm like, if you innocent, why are you trying to avoid eye contact? I'm like, oh, man, it's because I got my hand in my pants. Why are you trying to avoid eye contact? I'm like, yeah, I know y'all had something to do with it, but you say ain't nobody say nothing to me. I never saw who did it. Nobody said nothing. I'm like, so somebody just threw a fucking water bottle. It hit my leg. I'm trying to see who the fuck did it, and there's no one around. This happened another time. Like somebody threw like, I don't know, like some juice or something. Like I'm talking on the phone. I'm in one of these, stairs that I don't know what it is. Like by the freeway, they have stairs by the freeway. I'm just standing down here. I'm on the phone. Somebody throw a water bottle or like some juice or something. But I ignored it at first. Somebody threw something, but then they throw the cup down just to let me know, like, yeah, I did that. So I'm like, okay, so, because at first I'm like, all right, they just threw some juice down. They didn't know I was down there. People just throw their drink up, but then they throw the cup. So I'm like, all right. I walk up the stairs. Now I have a blade in my hand. I'm like, all right. I walk up, but then I don't see anybody. I'm like, so you motherfuckers is doing this extra shit. Then when I come up with the blade, nobody's around. I don't see anybody. fuck they go? Like, you had enough courage to throw this juice down, trying to, fuck up my mood. But again, they wasn't expecting me to walk up. See, people do that because okay, he's gonna run off. They wasn't expecting me to come up. And I know people had something to do with it because when I came up and I walked down the same street that I walked down to get there, now nobody wants to, 93 immortal, nobody wants to look me in my eyes. I'm like, I know you motherfuckers at, but nobody wants to look me in my eyes. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I'm like, I know y'all got something to do with it, because why are you afraid to look me in my eyes? Now, the people that I'm walking by, nobody wants to say nothing to me. So I just walk the fuck off. No problems. So I'm like, what are y'all doing? What I'm saying is, this is Los Angeles. People have no problem killing nothing. This is gangland. The fuck are they scared of me for? You know what I mean? Why am I any different? Why they see a little of me? I'm not 6'5". I'm short compared to the average height. I'm like, I'm not intimidating whatsoever, physically. But somehow, nobody wants to encounter. I'm like, all right, they doing all this funny shit. But nobody want that direct confrontation. The only reason they didn't want the direct confrontation is because of the spiritual rank. They didn't realize who they were dealing with. I'm like, wait a minute, this dude is willing to take it there. Because they wasn't willing to take it there. Motherfucker, probably with some kids or something, but they wasn't ready to spill blood. Because when I was ready to encounter, they're nowhere to be. I'm like, so you did that and you hid? They went off and hid somewhere. They didn't say nothing to me. I'm like, all right. Then again, I'm looking around. I'm like, all right, whoever looks suspicious, they about to get poked up. Nobody wants to make eye contact. I'm like, all right, yeah, I see what's going on. Just giving you examples. Just giving examples of shit that really happened. Right? And the only reason it happened like that is because of the spiritual realm. I'm actually putting in work behind the scenes. I'm actually not a regular human being. I done dedicated my whole life to the underworld. So to the point where the gang members and the cops is showing the respect. And when the respect was not shown, when I wanted that direct confrontation, nobody wants it. So I'm like, again, I've been in the most dangerous places. But then, I've also been in Devil's Gate too. See, most people don't even know about Devil's Gate, and they live in Los Angeles. Most people that live in Los Angeles don't even know about Devil's Gate. They never been there. But I was going, doing rituals and all type of shit. So that's what I mean. Like, I'm putting in work on the land. I remember my savage days in the underworld, running with the Bloods and NY Wild Nights. Exactly. Yeah, I was in NYC. You New York motherfuckers, man. You New York motherfuckers. I am very impressed. I am very impressed. You see, I'm listening to that Brooklyn drill shit right now. I am very impressed. What do I mean? Again, it was a time where I just wanted to get weed, but I didn't have a connect. It was 2 occasions. It was 2 times. Okay, I'll give you both times. So I'm looking for weed. I don't have a connect. I'm not from there. I'm in New York. So I look on the internet, right? I'm like, where do you get weed? I'm just typing it in, right? I'm like, where do you get weed? Then somebody replied on the internet, Washington Heights or something like that. Washington Heights. I'm like, where is that at? I've never been there. I don't know what the fuck is going on. I'm like, I guess I gotta go to Washington Heights. So fuck it, I go to Washington Heights. So I'm looking around. I'm like, where am I? I'm not just about to ask nobody, where is some weed? I don't want to look suspicious, right? So the first time, I walk all the way up to Washington Heights, looking around. So like I got the mantras, I'm chanting the mantras, I'm building up the energy, so because I'm not expecting it to just happen on its own, so I'm building up the energy. Then eventually I walk past this dude, and he just said, smoke, smoke. I almost didn't catch it. I caught it like at the last second. I'm like, smoke? Oh, he's talking about weed. I didn't see it, I didn't catch it at first. Like, you motherfuckers are so slick, I swear, you motherfucker. But let me explain. So he like, I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, yeah, I need that. Then he was like, yo, go stand over there. So I had to stand off in a cut somewhere. Then he disappears. So the person who said smoke, smoke, he disappears. A whole nother person comes out and like daps me up. And we exchange the weed and the money. Then he just goes back in the building. Then I never see the dude that was selling. I never see him again. So I'm like, you sophisticated motherfuckers. I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, you mother. I'm like, oh man, they got their shit down pat. They got a whole operation going. I'm like, it was very impressive. I'm like, damn. Like if it was a police officer watching or something, they would have never known. They would have never known that was a drug transaction. They would have never known because we never had any physical contact. He just said smoke. I'm like, yeah, I need that. But then we never communicated after that. And then it just looks like I just came there to meet somebody, and I just gave him a handshake, and I just went off about my business. You wouldn't be able to capture that on camera and say, oh yeah, that was a drug transaction. You wouldn't be able to capture that. Another time, I'm looking around. You know, I'm at the I think it's the bus station or some shit, Greyhound station, some shit, in Manhattan. So I'm looking around for the weed, and I see a person. I see a man. He's just standing there. I guess he's waiting on somebody. So I stand right next to him. And I'm like, yo, you know, some weed out there. He got scared. He like, oh fuck. It's like I put the devil in this dude. He was like, oh my goodness. He was like, yo, you scared the fuck out of me. That was his reaction. Like, yo, you scared the fuck out of me. I'm like, no, I'm just asking for some weed. He was like, yo, where you from? I'm like, yo, you know, I'm coming from LA. He was like, yo, you LA niggas is serious, huh? He was like, so he just gave praise to LA, like immediately. I'm just asking for some weed. But he knew where it was though. So I'm like, I approached the right person. It's crazy how this shit even happened, right? So I'm like, yo, you know what some weed is? He was like, yeah, I know where it is. But do you got me though? So basically I had to pay him as the middleman. He like, yo, you got me? I'm like, yeah, I got you. Cause I'm like, I understand the laws of the streets. I'm like, all right. He like, if I'm gonna connect you with the dude, you know, I'm not gonna do it for free. I'm like, yeah, that's that New York shit. I'm like, all right, yep, I got you. I'm like, yeah, I got you. So as we're walking down, you know, walking towards where we need to go, he's informing me, he's like, yo, I just got out of prison. I think he said he did like 10 years or something. So he like, yo, I just got out of prison doing 10 years. I killed the nigga. I'm like, oh shit, like you killed the nigga? He like, yeah, it was me or him. He's like, his gun jammed. This is what he's telling me. He was like, yo, basically two people pointing a gun at each other. One person's gun jammed, but his didn't. So he took that man's life. He was like, yo, it was either him or me. And I'm like, well, in that situation, I understand. Then he was like, yo, if anybody fuck with us, I got this ice pick on me right now. So basically, he has weapons on him. He like, yo, I got an ice pick on me right now. I'm like, you New York motherfuckers. I'm like, you motherfucker. He like, I got the ice pick on me right now. I'm like, god damn. So not only is this motherfucker a killer, he has a weapon on him. And so if anybody fuck with him, he's ready to kill again. He's ready to kill again. Then he knows what I'm like, somehow I end up talking to the right person. But then I'm like, I don't even know how do I scare this dude? This dude done killed somebody he's ready to kill again. Why am I intimidating him? He like, yo, you scared the fuck out of me. How did I scare you? You ain't scared of no gun. You ain't scared of these. Man, how did I scare you? But again, he gave praise like, yo, he had respect for the West Coast though. I'm like, yo, I have respect for the East Coast. That's why I got ultimate respect for the East Coast. So, you know, we go to the weed spot. I get my weed. He like, yo, get your weed and walk the fuck off. I pay him. I got weed. And just like that. Like, it's just little strange places, little strange things. Right? So I'm just giving you little tidbits of stuff. Little strange, mystical events. Where if it was anybody else, it would have been a different outcome. But somehow people who don't... Here's another thing. See, I missed the part. Hold on. So let's go back to Washington Heights. I think this is relevant. Let's go back to Washington Heights. So anyway, I guess it was a drug addict. It was a woman, right? So this woman was asking me for money. So while I'm looking for the weed, a woman walks up on me and she's asking for money. So then I ask her, I'm like, yo, where's the weed at? She's like, oh shit, it's right down there. Let me take you. Right? So she takes me to the spot. It's a bunch of dudes around. So I go into this store and I'm like, yo, where the weed at? Where the weed at? Then they're looking around like what the fuck? You're like, yo, what ain't no weed in here? You're like, ain't no weed in here. I'm like, okay. So, I respectfully, I'm like, all right, if it ain't no weed in here, it ain't no weed in here. So as I'm walking out of the store, they're telling me like, yo, she's hot. I'm like, you New York motherfuckers, because it's so cold in New York. She's like, yo, she's hot. Like, as she's, she's a informant. Like, yo, she's hot. I'm like, oh, that's what this is? I'm like, oh. So they're like, no, it ain't no weed around when she's around. We don't know what the fuck weed is when she's around. I'm like, oh, okay. I see what's going on here. This is an informant. So I walk out the store, then I walk right past her. I never say another word to her. She's like, yo, no, we can go right around the corner. Like, it's all right now. The streets have already informed me that you are not to be spoken to again, so I never spoke to her. I'm like, all right, let me just keep going. Right? So I'm like, again, it's these very mysterious situations where, things could have easily went left. But instead, they informed me. They're like, yo, she's hot. They didn't have to tell me that. They could like, yo, there ain't no weed here. You ain't getting no weed. Going about your business. And that would have been it. But then they told me, like, oh, she's hot. So they're informing me. They're putting me up on game because clearly I didn't know. So now I know better. Another situation. It was this, because again, I didn't know. I'm just learning as I go. It was another dude. He sold crack. So like this, a crackhead comes up to me like, yo, you need some drugs? I'm like, yo, I am actually looking for some weed. He was like, yo, go talk to homie over there. So I talked to homie, and he was like, yo, what's up? He was like, yo, you look like you don't smoke no crack. So he's kind of confused. But he was like, yo, I'll give you a good deal. So he's talking numbers and prices. And I'm like, where can I smoke weed? Because clearly it's illegal here. And he was like, yo, weed? I'm like, I thought you wanted some crack. I'm like, no, I'm looking for some weed, man. He like, I know you can smoke though. So he is cussing out the person that talked to me initially, because I guess he's paying that person to, I guess, get their customers. He like, yo, man, go to 7th Avenue, man. He like, you find that shit on 7th Avenue. Like, you like that. So he told me where it was. I'm like, oh, I got to go to 7th Avenue. I'm like, oh, which I didn't know. I'm like, all right, so let me go. So I'm just giving you these mysterious events where I'm running into these strange individuals and going through these strange experiences and to get to where I'm trying to get to, which I was just looking for some herb, right? But again, I'm talking to the streets, and then the streets is pointing me in the right direction to the point I eventually find what I'm looking for. I'm being pointed in the right direction. Instead of them saying, oh, fuck this dude, they're pointing me in the right direction, which they did not have to do. They had no obligation to point me in the right direction. They could have just shoved me off, fuck it. But because again, I was in New York for like a full 30 days. So it wasn't no visit. Some people come for a weekend. I was there for a full month. So I was in New York, so I had a full month to explore. You know what I mean? So that, again, that's why I got the ultimate respect for the East Coast. I was there for a full month, and it stepped up my astrology game. It stepped up my fashion. I'm like, you motherfuckers. I'm like, the fashion was impressive. So like, I had to step my fashion. I'm looking around and like, everybody's fresh. It's like, what the fuck is going on? See, when you on the West Coast, everybody's like afraid, to wear their jewelry, because there's so many gangs. People don't want to get robbed. So you see a lot of people just dress down. You ain't seeing people too flashy. But I go to New York, like everybody's fresh. You know, man, you white, you black. I'm like, everybody's fresh. Everybody got on these leather coats and shit, or these leather jackets. I'm like, you motherfuckers are very impressive. I'm like, I've never seen this. Like, everybody's fresh. I'm like, I'm looking around like a whole, just imagine a whole, like, everybody's fresh. Like, everybody's fresh. Everybody's stylish. So I had to step up my game. I ended up like switching the way I wore my shoes. I ended up switching up my style. Now I'm looking like a New Yorker. Cause you motherfuckers are just so impressive. Like, I see why hip hop was started in New York. That's all I gotta say. I see why it was started in New York and not somewhere else. Cause like you motherfuckers are like aliens. Like when you go to New York versus anywhere else, it's like you are going into a spaceship. That's just how different New York is from the rest of the country. It's like you didn't just enter into a spaceship. So that's how like I know this from firsthand experience. Like this ain't just me just taking nobody else's word. I know this from firsthand experience. I'm like you, like just so I'm just giving you little tidbits of just how I'm like I just got a little glimpse. I just got a little glimpse into the culture. I'm looking around at the graffiti. The graffiti is only on moving vehicles. So it's like it wasn't that much graffiti. Like I'm not talking about like like the hoods and stuff. I'm like the only time I was seeing graffiti was on moving trucks. Because they wasn't, if you're in Manhattan and all that, they're not just gonna let you put up graffiti anywhere. But I'm like, every time I saw graffiti, it was like in moving vehicles. I'm like, damn, the graffiti is living? I don't know what's going on. But yeah, let me go ahead and I say, what's up, Sounds by Luna? So it was a bunch of trucks with graffiti. I'm like, damn, every time I see the graffiti, it's moving, it's living, it's in motion. I'm like, I've never seen this many trucks with graffiti. It's like they're all over the place. I'm like, look at all these goddamn white trucks with this graffiti and this living. And we know like New York, they used to put the graffiti on the trains and all that. So I'm like, damn, every time I see graffiti, it's moving, it's animated, it's living. I'm like, this is some alien shit. But then I'm like, I got the evidence. Because when I actually did smoke the weed, because I said I was looking for the weed, because I'm like, I want to smoke that New York weed. I want to see the experience I get there. Then the spirit began to talk to me. The spirit began to tell me, I'm like, yo. He's like, yo, do you, like, this is the city of tan, right? I'm like, the city of tan? I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, Manhattan? Manhattan means the city of tan. I'm like, what the fuck is tan? Like tan as in skin tone? No, tan as in Saturn. Like, this is the city of Saturn. I'm like, oh yeah, the master builders. That's why we got all these buildings. I'm like, the buildings in Manhattan is stupid ridiculous. It's like, I've never seen buildings that tall in my life. Because on the West Coast, they like the sun, so the buildings are only a certain height. When you go to New York, the buildings are so high they block out the sun. They make the buildings as tall as they want to. They don't give a fuck about the sun. The sun, you don't even see the sun till like 9 a.m. or some shit. The buildings are so goddamn tall. And I'm like, fuck. So the spirit revealed, I'm like, yo, you in the city of tan. This is Saturn on Earth. I'm like, fuck. No, I didn't know that, but I know now. But that was a direct revelation. I didn't know that shit. Then what I do, I started listening to like some old school hip hop breakdance, and I go to Central Park. I didn't know how big Central Park was. I'm like, this shit is fucking 80 blocks or some shit. I'm thinking Central Park is like a normal park. This shit is not no normal park. This shit takes up so much space. It's ridiculous. This is like the biggest park I've ever seen. Then I'm just looking at the people. I'm like, it's a fucking marathon. I'm just sitting in Central Park, and like everybody's on their bikes, on their cycles and running. I'm like, it's like a fucking marathon. I'm like, I've never seen no shit like this. Yeah, it's like you stepped onto a fucking spaceship. But again, it's just, my little tales of New York and my tales of LA, my tales of Las Vegas. Even in Las Vegas, yeah. So I talked about New York, I talked about LA. What about Las Vegas? I met a Canadian, right? It was a Canadian man. I'm just smoking my fucking weed. He was like, yo. He just came up talking to me in my ear. I'm just sharing the weed with a Canadian. right? I'm like, a Canadian, like, what the fuck? But like, he's giving us praise. You're like, yo, you like, I respect Americans. But I'm like, no, we respect you. So I made sure to let him know. I'm like, yo, we actually respect you. I'm like, look, I'm like, this motherfucker, like, this is what I'm saying. I'm like, this motherfucker. It reminded me of Drake. I'm like, oh shit, this isn't just Drake. Like, this is just the spirit of Canada. I'm like, look at this motherfucker, like, fresh. Like, he just fresh as fuck with his little Canadian fit. I'm like, look at you, motherfuckers. Like, he's just stylish and fresh. Like, I'm like, y'all motherfuckers just doing it effortlessly. Huh? I'm like, it's just very impressive. So, like, yeah, you, like, the northern people, like, the northeast, I'm like, you motherfuckers are just effortlessly fresh and just stylish. I'm like, it's just in the culture, huh? It's just in the blood. It's just on the land. So I'm like, you motherfuckers, like, it's just so impressive. So that's just the thing about Las Vegas. You can run into anybody. You can run into Canadians. You know, you can run into anybody. Everybody comes, you know, to Las Vegas to get their rocks off, right? So I done run into all types of motherfuckers in all type of scenarios. But everybody's free though. So like nobody's really hard pressed. Everybody's free, except the locals. Like the locals, they're a little more hard pressed. But the foreigners, the visitors, like everybody's open. So, but like the locals like go to Fremont. Like the locals don't even be on the strip as much as you would think. You know, they go to Fremont, which is like the local entertainment downtown. Like the foreigners more so, you know, be on the strip and all that. For those who don't know. But anyway, just making this, just giving my own personal experiences, the underworld laws. You must acknowledge your rank, right? If you decide to be amongst the underworld, you must acknowledge your rank. If you are a prince, you got to act like a prince. If you are amongst the streets, you have to respect the environment. So that's why when I was in New York, you would think I'm a New Yorker. When I, this is how I know too. This is how I know this shit is real. Because when I was living in California, it was all good, right? Because I looked like somebody from California. As soon as I go to New York, as I told you, my whole style changed. When I came back to LA, now the energy, the people treated me completely different. That's just how much I changed when I went to New York. The people in the West Coast treated me there. They looking at me crazy now. They're looking at me crazy now. It's like I'm an alien. I'm like, you motherfuckers wouldn't treat me like this before. I had a whole different type of reaction from the people because I had changed. I'm like, yo, I'm not gonna be in New York like I'm an outsider. I have to fit into the culture. Then when I went back to LA, like I'm being treated differently. Like I was not being treated the same. Motherfuckers is looking at me crazy now. Why? Cause now I'm trying to be extra fresh. You know what I mean? I'm bringing New York to LA, but they didn't like that shit. They didn't like that shit at all. They didn't like it. I'm like, who is this motherfucker? So that's why when I told you about that experience, when I had to pull out the blade, I think that's what it was. I'm like, yo, I guess I'm a little bit too fresh right now. I was like, my style is a little bit too Eastern. They don't like that shit at all. They ain't like it at all. But it is what it is, right? I mean, what are you gonna do? We have to be cultured some way. We got to be cultured some way. But I can tell you about my experiences in Atlanta. You know, let me see. Atlanta showed me black excellence. You know what I mean? I seen a level of excellence I haven't seen before. I'm like, look at these black people just in powerful positions. I'm like, look at this. Like people inviting me into their homes. That I'm seeing art that I've never seen before. People are showing like, yo, this art came directly out my dream. I'm like, look at you. I'm like, that's some crazy ass shit. Somebody put their what they saw in a dream, they made it into an art piece. You know what I mean? I'm around people, you know, that's in high positions. I'm like, you motherfucker Atlanteans. You motherfucker, like, this is what I'm saying. Travel is necessary. That's the point, right? Because you must absorb the underworld, the undercurrents. But you see a lot of people are, you know, they're not trying to go to gangland. You know, they ain't trying to go to New York. You know what I mean? With that drill music, they ain't trying to go to New York with them drill. With that drill shit, like it's a lot. It's a lot going on, right? Unless you're in the underworld. Because if you're in the underworld, now you are able to navigate in a way that other people simply cannot because they're too afraid. But when you don't have fear in your heart, it can be felt. So that's why they say real recognize real. When you are real and when you are authentic, you get a certain type of treatment. You are treated like the energy you put out. So because I wasn't trying to dominate nobody, I wasn't trying to be better. I'm on a humble. See, I was able to navigate without a scratch. Nobody tried me. Nobody disrespected me because I wasn't doing that to nobody. Now, I was seeing some crazy ass shit. As you see, we can keep going. I was seeing people in New York, and shit was funny, getting cussed out. Like people that's ready to just, it's crazy. But again, my astrology advancement, you see, I still benefit from that to this day. All right? So I'm gonna end this. Got 2 more videos to do. All right? So I'm gonna shut this one down. And I'm gonna come right back up with a whole different topic. And you'll see me in a minute. You're gonna have to get a better experience in Dallas next. Oh fuck! Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Almost forgot Dallas. All right. All right. Let me talk about Dallas real quick. I'll talk about Dallas. See, what I noticed. See, I did my numerology. See, when I was in Dallas, I'm like, these winds are violent. That's the first I noticed. I'm like, damn, it's windy as fuck here. I'm like, why is it so windy? What's up, Dank Wizard? I'm like, it's windy as fuck in Dallas. All right? But when I did the numerology, I'm like, Dallas breaks down to 4. And 4 is Uranus. And Uranus is the air element. So I'm like, oh, these extreme winds, I'm like, oh, it's based on numerology. I'm like, I couldn't believe how windy it was in Dallas. I'm like, what the fuck is, my whole, like, you just get, like, the winds get violent with you. The weather is violent, right? But Dallas was, well, like, I went downtown. I did some exploring, right? And I see your question, C, but, I don't want to break my train of thought. I'll get at you in 1 second. Dallas is absolutely beautiful. It was huge. Like, Dallas was like, it was like when they say like Texas, everything is bigger in Texas. Like, I know what they mean when they say that. I'm like, yo, this is a big ass fucking city. Like, Texas is fucking huge. So I'm like, this is a big fucking city. I'm like, this is huge. But then it was beautiful though. Like, downtown, beautiful. I'm looking around like, yo, this is a beautiful ass city. It's just windy. Like the winds do not play. But the people and the energy was sensational. A lot of culture. Because when you in the deep south, I'm like, yo, the culture is ridiculous. Especially the black culture. I'm like, the black culture. Very impressive. I am very impressed. Like, it was not what I expected. Because, I expected, Texas to be kind of racist. I was expecting a whole different type of energy, right? People doing extra shit. What I noticed was, I'm like, nobody was tripping. I'm like, everybody is like tamed. That's what I noticed about Dallas. I'm like, you wouldn't know if nobody was drunk, if nobody was high. Like, everybody is behaving civilized. That's what I saw in Dallas. I'm like, damn. Like, everybody is like slow. Like when they say like in the South things are a lot slower. That's what I noticed about the people. I'm like, everybody's like on their own time, just coasting. Everybody just coasting in Dallas. Like, again, you wouldn't know. Like, no, I'm not seeing people overly drunk, overly happy. I'm like, everybody's like smooth and mellow, cool as fuck. Like, I've never seen people this cool. I told you about New York motherfuckers is crazy. I told you about LA motherfuckers is crazy. But in Dallas, I'm like, everybody's just cool, calm and collected. I'm like, damn. It don't matter. And Dallas is also very diverse. So you're saying there are all types of people there, all types of people, all types of cultures. Everybody's like cool with each other. which was completely different. I didn't know like Dallas was like the fifth most diverse city in America. I didn't know that. I'm like, damn, they're all like, so everybody's just getting along and shit. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting a whole different energy, but again, that was just my ignorance. I was just ignorant to the fact. But when I actually got there, I'm like, yo, these people are just smooth as fuck. These are like the coolest people. I'm not gonna lie, I'm like, yo, this is the people you probably want to party with. These are the people you actually want to interact with because everybody's cool, everybody's mellow, everybody's like just centered and solid. Because you know, the South is the earth element, like everybody's solid. And I'm like, I know that by first hand. I'm like, everybody's cool, everybody's smooth, right? Yeah, people are sweet. So, yeah, that's funny. That's funny. But he's like, I know that. I'm like, everybody's just cool. You know what I mean? It's very, very beautiful. Very, very appealing to the eyes. People calm, cool, and collected. It was just completely different than what I expected. I was expecting something a lot more ruthless. The only thing that was ruthless was those winds. That was the only thing that was ruthless. So I'm like, oh. But ultimately, overall, very, very beautiful people. Very beautiful culture. Very diverse. Very beautiful people. You know what I mean? Very large. Very open. And yeah, it's definitely a place that I don't know. It's as a water element, as a Scorpio, you know, interacting with the earth element, it helped me to balance myself. Like the lesson I learned from Dallas is to slow the fuck down. Cause you know, when I'm in Vegas, we move at hyperspeed in Vegas, right? We in hyperspeed over here. So when I went to Dallas, they're like, yo, slow the fuck down. I'm moving too quick. I'm moving too fast. So Dallas helped me to be more meditative. It helped me to, you know, you ain't gotta be moving in hyperspeed, at least not down here. So I had to learn to slow my ass down. You know, I'm always in full speed ahead with it, but that's just the energy of Vegas, right? Vegas breaks down to the number five. You know, that's Mercury. Mercury is the fastest planet. So Vegas is moving at rapid speed. So I was still in that conscious, the same way I was speaking about going to New York, but I'm bringing that LA vibe, and I had to switch that shit up. You know, what I mean, I had to adapt. So I had to slow my ass down, get more meditative, get more into the culture. You know, what I mean, get more into what it means to, you know, be cultured. You know, the black culture, right? So it was more beautiful than anything that I ever expected. But Texas has always been supporting me. I remember back in the day, like I think my biggest supporters was like in Texas. Like a lot of people were in Texas that watched my content when I was looking at the analytics, right? So Texas has always been, you know, a big part of my journey in terms of it was all like for whatever reason the Texas people just resonated with me. You know, what I mean, I didn't understand it till I went there, right? But I was, you know, I went through. You know, what I mean, I went through many cities. You know, I went through El Paso, I went through Austin. You know what I mean? I didn't get to touch Houston. You know, but I went through, you know, the different energies, and I was like, I remember being in El Paso, and I'm like, damn, this is like the people were like fucking. They got like this lizard type of like the. How do I explain this shit? I'm trying to explain this. Cause I'm always looking for the hip hop wherever I go. So whenever I'm traveling, I'm looking for the hip hop. So when I got that, I'm like, yo, we in Texas right now. Like when I was going through El Paso, I'm like the hip, like the styles, the El Paso style. It was like, when I say lizard, I mean reptilian. I'm like, yo, these are the reptilians. I'm like, you reptilian, like you know, we talk about reptilians, like aliens and all that. You know, they got a bad rap, but when I was in El Paso, I'm like, this is a reptilian energy. I think that I don't know if that's strictly in El Paso or maybe the whole Texas. I'm like, yo, this is the whole of the reptilians. If you know about the reptilians, then you know what I'm talking about. But the ultimate salute to the South. I said, well, you know, Atlanta, Dallas, ultimate, like it's very beautiful. Like the people, when I went to Atlanta, I saw beautiful homes. Like that was the first time I saw like every house was like different when I went to Atlanta. You know, because you got the homeowners, like every house was different. Now, you know, most of the time we see like government houses, But when I went to Atlanta, I'm like, every house is like unique. Every house had its own uniqueness, which was I've never seen that before. I'm like, so just imagine going down the block and every house has its own creativity. Which so I found that very impressive. I'm like, yo, look at these, look at you, intelligent motherfuckers. Very cultured people, very beautiful people. You know what I mean? So shout out to the South. Again, me as a water sign, the South helps balance me out. It helps me to slow down, right? I've been to Miami, not yet. But I heard Miami is a little wild. I heard Miami is a little wild. It's a whole different culture too. I know that's a whole different culture. You know, you got that Caribbean type energy down there. But I'm not necessarily in any rush to go to Miami. It be get turned up. Like a lot of people, you know, go to Miami, you know, to vacation, to visit. Excuse me. Like I try to go to the places that many people ain't really thinking about. You know, because I've been cross country twice. You know what I mean? So I've been cross country, like on the land. So I'm not talking about flying. I didn't take a flight to LA to New York. It took like 3 days to and from. So when I traveled from LA to New York and back from New York to LA, I was on the lands because I wanted to see, you know, how the country develops and how the changes occurred. You know what I mean? So yeah, 72 hours. So that was 72 plus 72. The angels and the demons. But let me answer this question before I get up out of here. Yeah, I don't. Let me answer this question. Shout out to the South though. Shout out to the beautiful people of Dallas. You know, and especially you, Kelly. You know what I mean? Showed me so much love. You know, let me know what was really going on. Completely changed my perspective, and it gave me a lot more respect. You know what I mean? I was like, the people of the South, they, you know what I mean? You wouldn't know. Like because they're low key. You wouldn't know. You wouldn't really know what's going on. Very beautiful place. You love like, yo, you motherfuckers are so low key. But they got their shit in order. Very solid people. You know what I mean? The organization. You know what I mean? Very, very beautiful people. So as a water sign going into the earth element, you know, was very beautiful. You know what I mean? You're able to settle in, right? I was able to settle in and feel at home. And feel like, you know, I can build and I can renew myself. Right? Very, very beautiful energy. So I got nothing but respect for Dallas, nothing but respect for the South. And again, I was expecting a whole different energy. So they showed me, you know what I mean? They broke my own limitations. You know, I had limitations on my brain. Those limitations was broken. So I very much appreciate the experience. Right? But like, let me go to the off topic, but why don't we talk about the Divine Mother? I was just talking about the Divine Mother yesterday. Not yesterday, the day before yesterday. And salute to you, Calvin. Salute to the goddess. Because you definitely embody that. You are definitely Kali in the flesh. You know, that's why I always want to give you your praise. You are definitely Kali in the flesh. You know what I mean? Because people be talking about, you know, they're the god, they're the goddess. But no, some people live out their name. Like, you live out your name. You are Kali in the flesh. There's no question in my mind about that. You embody that energy in real time. So that's why I have nothing but respect. Like, yo, you are the real deal. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm always saluting. I'm like, yo, yeah, you are the real deal. That I know gods and goddesses are real. So we ain't talking about the mythologies. I'm like, yo, PD, we got walking deities on earth. We got walking deities around this bitch. You know what I mean? And I've seen them. I've interacted with them. And every time I do, they always advance me. They help me to grow. They help me to understand. But yeah, why don't we talk about the Divine Mother? The last time I went live, I spoke very highly of the Divine Feminine. Just the day before yesterday. The day before yesterday, I was talking very highly of the Divine Feminine, how we should utilize technology to liberate ourselves. I was talking very highly of the Divine Feminine, how I have the ultimate respect for the Divine Feminine. I was just talking about that the day before yesterday. So don't ever for a minute think that I ignore the Divine Feminine. I also always speak about, as men, as a Divine Masculine, we have to cultivate the feminine energy within us. I was just speaking about that the day before yesterday. So I completely acknowledge the Divine Feminine. I give all praise and honor to the Divine Feminine. You know what I mean? So I'm never going to, you know, push that to the side. So ultimate love and respect for the Divine Feminine. It's the divine feminine helps me every day. You know what I mean? I have to cultivate that within myself. You know what I mean? So that's what gives me refinement. See, when you are the divine masculine, you have the power. You are a powerful being. But with that power, you must be refined. See, that's what we need to do more of. You know what I mean? There's a lot of divine masculine men, right? But they lack refinement, right? They lack refinement. Because that's what I see with my own eyes. I see a lot of powerful brothers, a lot of powerful men. But they rough around the edges. But again, that's what it means to be masculine. You're a little rough around the edges, right? It's not until you refine yourself with that feminine currency that you become complete. See, I had to learn that though. You know what I mean? That's why I have the ultimate respect for the woman. That's why I'm always giving love and praises to the woman, because that helps me refine myself. You know what I mean? Women have supported me the whole time. Ever since I've been on YouTube, women have supported me. That's why I do my due diligence. You know, to make sure that you are honored, make sure that you are respected. That's why you will never see me talking ill about women. So if I'm ever talking about women, I'm doing my best to praise them. So if ain't nobody else doing it, I'm gonna make sure I do it. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna always keep them at the forefront. You know what I mean? So I never disrespect it. Cause I know I get fucked up. I know the power of the divine feminine. You know what I mean? I've been on the opposite side of that, and that's how I know. I'm like, I know better. You know what I mean? Because the divine feminine don't play at all. So if I get caught talking crazy, yeah, I'm gonna get fucked over. You know, so that's why, you know, it's never an issue. I'm gonna always praise a woman because she deserves praise, right? Especially a woman who's developing her goddess, who is an avatar of a living intelligence, you know what I mean? Making shit happen, holding shit down, with or without a man, going into their warrior spirit, you know what I mean? So it's always love and respect there. Exactly, mother, father, God, exactly. Women develop the masculine, men develop the feminine. That's how we become complete. So that's my message. So men, we already know we are powerful. We just need a refinement. Women are already refined. That's why they tap into their warrior spirit. They get a little unrefined, right? They're a little unrefined when they go into their masculine, but that helps them to be balanced when they tap into that warrior spirit, right? So it's always love and respect. And it's all good, you know? So I'm gonna always continue to give the praises where praises is due, right? All praise to the divine feminine, all praise to the divine masculine, because as one, we make the world go round and the stars continue to spin. And again, I got 2 more videos, right? So with that, I bear peace. 93, 93, 93.